What is going on, everyone? JP MMA here, back with a brand new video. Today we're going to be going over the main card, the prelims, and the early prelims, the whole entire fight card of UFC 314 in Miami, Volkanovski versus Lopes. So let's get straight into it, starting with the first card, the first fight on the card, Nora Cornolle versus Haley Cowan. Very similar records, 8-2 versus 7-3, similar in age, same reach. Odds are pretty close, but Cornolle is minus 195 favorite. I'm going to be going with her. She's got a little bit more UFC experience, although neither have many fights in the UFC. She's got 3 compared to Cowan's 1. A little bit better in all areas of the game. She's 2 years older than Cowan, which I don't like to see in women's fights, but honestly, these are very hard to predict, especially the lower level women's fights. So I'm going to be going Cornolle, and enough about that fight. Moving on, we got Gore versus Marco Tulio. Tulio minus a 380 favorite. Gore, I feel like people do sleep on Gore a lot. He's pretty good when he's an underdog. He comes through a lot. He was on a pretty long layoff, got injured a bunch, came back in 2024 last year, late in the year, gets the first round guillotine over Antonio Tricoli after a 2-year layoff. So that's nice to see, but what I'm looking at here is this KO loss from Cody Brundage. Cannot be happening. Brian Battle loss, not a bad loss, as we all know. He was on the Ultimate Fighter, as you can see, with Urbina and Battle and Brundage, those type of guys. I can't pick Gore based off that Cody Brundage loss. I was just watching that back. He got taken down by Brundage, and then he got dropped by a very, very innocent looking punch, and I really don't like to see that. His chin looked pretty weak during that knockdown. Like I said, not a hard punch at all, and he gets dropped and then finished on the ground by Cody Brundage. I'm going to pick Tulio here. He's 13-1. He's kind of bursting on the scene. Just got a knockout as a heavy favorite over Potieria. That was this year as well. He knocked out Duclos on the Contender Series last year. He's on a really nice win streak. He's a knockout artist. And he, as you guys can see, in 2023, he did beat Yusri Belgari, who did beat Alex Pereira in Glory Kickboxing and trains with Alex Pereira as well. Massive guy, massive reach. So he gets a really nice win over Belgari. If you know his name and recognize his name, you know that's a pretty nice win. So even though it's on the Contender Series and it was before his UFC run, he's now 2-0 in the Contender Series. Gets a first round KO in his debut, and I think he'll continue his win streak here versus Gore. Next up, we got Sumudaerji versus Mitch Raposo. So I was actually there live in person for Mitch Raposo's debut. That's the whole reason I went to see Mitch Raposo versus Andre Lima. Just kidding, I was there to see DP and Islam, but he actually went to a split decision with Andre Lima. Andre Lima's been looking fantastic. And what is he, 4-0 in the UFC now? He's been looking great, so a split decision versus him doesn't seem too bad. Not a lot of output in that fight versus Andre Lima. Not much going on. Went the 3-round distance. Not a lot to base the judges' scorecards off of, so he gets the loss there. Honestly, he's 26 years old. This is his second UFC fight. I'm going to be going with Sumudaerji, the much more experienced guy in this fight. Yes, he's on a 3-fight losing streak. He's got fantastic striking. And he did fight, pretty nice competition. You can see he has a lot of red on his resume. Matt Chanel, Tim Elliott, Charles Johnson. These are all ranked caliber guys. And before that, he was on a 3-fight win streak. A first-round KO over Malcolm Gordon. Pretty impressive, 44 seconds. He's a great striker. If you guys have not watched that Matt Chanel fight, I would definitely recommend you go and watch that. That was an insane comeback by Matt Chanel. Sumudaerji was just laying elbow after elbow on Chanel. He got a knockdown or even 2, hurt Chanel a bunch of times. And then Chanel eventually took him down, got reversed again, and got the submission. Just an insane fight. Submission from Tim Elliott, not a great look. That guy has not fought in forever. Tim Elliott, but and Charles Johnson lost by unanimous decision last year, so he's not that active. Even though he is 29, you would expect a little bit more activity from him. He outstruck Charles Johnson, who's a nice striker in this division and a top 15 guy. I just don't think Mitch Raposo is quite at that level and quite experienced enough to beat a guy like Sumudaerji, who was in the rankings in the last 2 years. So this guy is definitely not completely out of it, but I think he's also fighting for his contract. His career's on the line. If he loses a fourth to an up-and-comer, that's not a good look for him. So I'm going to be going Sumudaerji, training at a nice gym at Team Alpha Male as well. Next up, last fight on the early prelims, Cedric Dumas versus Michael Olekciejczuk. The obvious pick here is Olekciejczuk. 19-9, doesn't have the greatest record in the world, but real ones know he's 19-9. He's lost 3 in a row. Real ones know this guy is a nice fighter. He's got great striking, 14-1 by KO. Was doing well versus Shara Magomedov, to be honest. I know. What were the stats or what was the scorecards on that fight? 2 judges gave Shara the 3-0. He got outstruck 97-77. He dropped Shara in the first or second round. I don't think it counted as a knockdown, but he did drop Shara. I think he won the first round, but either way, he was being competitive with Shara for the most part in that fight. Knocked down Kevin Holland, the first guy to ever knock down Kevin Holland. That fight ended weirdly. He did get submitted and then got hurt badly, dropped, and then submitted by Michel Pereira as well in the first round. So the definite way to beat this guy is to take him to the ground and submit him, because he really has no submission defense. He's not really well aware on the ground, and he's not really aware of his opponent's setting up submission attempts, and then all of a sudden he falls right into the trap. So we saw it with the Kevin Holland fight. I think this fight is going to stay on the feet. Cedric Dumas, yes, he had a win basically using grappling the whole fight versus Azaitar. Dumas isn't great. He's 3-2 in the UFC. Cody Brundage, Abu Zaid, or Dennis Tululin, these are pretty low-level guys for the middleweight division. Even Josh Fremd, submission loss. Josh Fremd is part of that group with Cody Brundage, I would say. Just not the highest level. And he did get eye poke knocked out by Ruzibov, where he got eye poked and the ref basically just didn't stop it, and he eventually got finished by that. But I think that was going to happen either way. Ruzibov was my lock of the card on that fight. I'm pretty sure. I'm going to be going with Olekciejczuk. He's the better fighter, the more experienced fighter. He's fought in the far better competition. He has been moving up and down weight classes. So you will see he fought Dustin Jacoby in middleweight. That's a pretty good fighter to have on your resume. Jimmy Crute, Ovince St. Preux, Modestas Bukauskas he beat. Fought Khalil Roundtree. Chidian Njokuani, who just got a nice win. Fought top 5 contender in Cal Baralho. He's fought a ton of guys. And I remember him saying after the Shara fight that if he doesn't win that, then he might have to retire, because I guess he was pretty confident in Shara being a beatable opponent. But he's a really tough guy. He's got a nice chin. He has that dog in him. I don't know if I can say that about Dumas. I think all signs point to an Olekciejczuk win here. Minus 190. I'd probably have it a little bit wider at maybe minus 220, because, Dumas is 10-2. He's got the 5-inch reach advantage as well, but I think Olekciejczuk is more skilled in the grappling and has the better mental toughness as well to get it done. Next up, to kick off the prelims of UFC 314, we got Julian Erosa versus Darren Elkins. 2 old heads going at it, 35 versus 40. Julian Erosa coming in as a minus 425 favorite. I'm going to be going with him here in this fight. He's actually got I was looking at his resume, and he's got an underrated resume. That C-Rod submission in the first round, guillotine. Submits Ricardo Ramos as well, who's Brazilian. He's a grappler, so back-to-back first-round submissions for him. He's also got wins over Charles Jourdain, a submission there, Nate Landwehr, a finish, Sean Woodson, a finish, the only guy to even beat Sean Woodson, who we'll be going over in a little bit. He's fought guys like Grant Dawson as well, Fernando Padilla, Alex Caceres. He's got some nice competition on his resume and some really nice wins, and he's a finisher. He's got 25 finishes and 30 wins. Really able to get guys to the ground where has the advantage, it seems, and get the submission. Again, C-Rod is a really nice win. Sean Woodson, Charles Jourdain, these guys are really nice fighters. So he's fighting Darren Elkins. He's 40 years old. I think Julian Erosa is going to have the upper hand here and probably get the finish. I wouldn't even mind picking a submission win for him as well. Darren Elkins at one point in his career was pretty damn good. He was on a 6-fight win streak here. Has an absurd amount of UFC fights. So crazy experience. Started off very, very well in the UFC. Was on a 6-fight win streak here, submitting Michael Johnson, heading into the Volkanovski fight, who we all know and love, which started a little bit of a losing streak. But honestly, he's 5-2 in his last 7. He's a very tough guy. He will not quit. He's one of the toughest guys on the roster mentally. He will keep pushing. The Daniel Pineda fight, who he just beat, I mean, that guy is solid. He's not a complete tomato can. So he gets the win there, and it's not like Pineda's actually 39, but Pineda is a tough out, just like Darren Elkins. So both these guys, although they are 35 to 40 years old, are off pretty good win streaks. Either way, I picked against 40-year-old Josh Emmett last week. I'm going to be picking against 40-year-old Darren Elkins here. I think you just have to fade these 40-year-old guys at this point. Unless it's somebody like Jan Blachowicz or a DC, that championship caliber. Darren Elkins is definitely not that, and certainly not at this point in his career. Julian Erosa will probably get the finish, but these are the types of fights that is really just who knows what's going to happen. You would think Erosa would win this pretty easily, but Darren Elkins is such a tough guy that he could somehow just pull off the Rolling Thunder KO. So I'm going to be going with Julian Erosa here either way. Next up, another wide-odd fight. Chase Hooper minus 950 over Jim Miller. I don't know why Dana decides to give Chase Hooper Jim Miller, dude. Another 41-year-old. Chase Hooper is a great prospect. He's 25 years old. He's 15-3. He's on a 4-fight win streak. Submits Jordan Levitt, submits Borshev, who he literally dominated in that fight. If you can see the stats here, 62-2 SIG strikes. Got 1 takedown on 1 attempt, held him down, 10-7'd him, whatever you want to call it. Just pure domination. Borshev isn't a good grappler, but okay, you see that win, and then you think, all right, let's give him somebody, pretty good, maybe, around 20 to 25 in the rankings. They give him Clay Guida. Are you kidding me? Clay Guida, another 40-year-old guy? I mean, I don't know what they're doing to Chase Hooper. I don't know what dirt Dana has on this kid. I mean, and there was another dominant performance by Chase Hooper, as it should have been. He was a huge favorite, and this is a similar fight. I mean, Jim Miller's definitely better than Clay Guida right now, but there's no path for him to win. It's going to be Chase Hooper all day, and he's going to probably submit him, take him down. He's a very, very good grappler. I compare him to Paddy Pimblett, not the most intimidating looking guy, but he's getting more and more experience in the UFC, getting their physique up there, and really, really underratedly good on the ground, just like Paddy Pimblett is. Like I said, I think maybe after this fight they'll give him somewhere near the rankings, but who knows? Giving him Clay Guida and Jim Miller, I mean, honestly, it's going to be a finish from Chase Hooper. Not much of a chance for Jim Miller in this fight. Next up, Verna Jandiroba versus Yan Xiaonan. I mean, this could be up there with Topuria Makhachev. This could be up there with Jones Aspinall. I mean, this. I've been looking forward to this fight for months now. I'm going to be picking Virna Jandiroba in this fight. With these WMMA fights, there's really not a lot of analysis being put into these unless they're title fights. Virna Jandiroba seems like she knows how to win. She's 21-3, an outstanding record. She's on a 4-fight win streak. She just submitted Amanda Lemos, who had a pretty nice performance versus Lucindo on UFC 313. She beat a prospect in Lupi Godinez, who just got a win. She beat a nice fighter, Marina Rodriguez, who had a nice record at the time. And Angela Hill, always a tough fighter to get out there. So she's won 4 in a row. She knows how to win. She's very, very good in her grappling, in her control wrestling, and setting up submissions. As you can see, she's 14-0 by submission. Yan Xiaonan was in that title fight versus Zhang Weili. It seemed like, I think she dropped her at one point. She's very well-rounded. Got some nice striking, some pretty good power. Has the wrestling led well as well, but I don't think she'll have the wrestling advantage in this fight versus Virna Jandiroba. And versus Zhang Weili, I know it's Weili, but she did get held down a ton in that fight. Gets the bounce back win versus Tabitha Ricci, a decent win there. And she did very well in that fight. It's very close. I'm going to be going with the slight favorite in Virna Jandiroba. I think she knows how to win at this point in her career. She's 21-3. She has the more UFC experience. And she's getting close to that title shot. I'd say even after this, she would earn herself a nice title shot. And she's at 36 years old, so her career is winding down. This could be the deciding factor in whether or what direction her career takes. So I'm going to take her for the win here. The prelim headliner. This is a really nice fight. Sean Woodson versus Dan Ige. This is tough, man. This is really tough. Sean Woodson finally getting a ranked opponent. The spider, the human tarantula, whatever you want to call him, the alien. This guy has an insane reach. What is his reach? 78-inch reach. 7 more inches than Dan Ige. He's on a nice win streak. Let's see, he's won 5 in a row, 7-0-1 in his last 8. And he's got some nice wins. Yusuf Zalal on a major run in the featherweight division, just beat Calvin Kattar. Charles Jourdain split decision. He's a nice fighter that I like to see on the resume. Alex Caceres probably fights once every 2 years for some reason, but he is nonetheless a good win on the resume, and he was ranked in the top 15 in the last 2 years. So again, like I was talking about with Chase Hooper, it gets a bump down. You beat Charles Jourdain and Alex Caceres, and you're fighting Fernando Padilla all of a sudden. I really don't know what's going on with the matchmaking. He gets the first round KO. Honestly, for him being a striker, and for the reach he has, and he was a boxer previously before MMA, a heavyweight boxer at that, if you can believe that. He doesn't really have that much power. He's only got 4 KOs. Most of his wins are by decision. This is really tough. He's gonna stand up. He's not gonna grapple with you. It's very hard to take this guy down with how long his legs are, how long his arms are. It's like taking down a plank of wood. It's just so awkward. It kind of seems like he has the recipe for success. The patented guys like Max Holloway, who have great takedown defense and are almost unbeatable on the feet, especially with his reach advantage. He's got the takedown defense, he's got the output, he's got the striking, he's got the reach advantage, and he's always going to have the reach advantage in these fights. Looking at Dan Ige, he's got a very, very nice resume, at least for guys he's fought. He hasn't beaten a lot of them, but he's fought in the best of the best. Lerone Murphy, who just got a win over Josh Emmett. Diego Lopes, fighting for the belt on the same card. Andre Fili, a decent fighter and has been in the UFC for a while. Bryce Mitchell, another ranked guy. Nate Landwehr, a fun contender that has gotten close to the rankings. He beats Damon Jackson. Okay. Mavzar Evloev, Josh Emmett, Korean Zombie. Yes, he's losing to these guys, but as you can see, he's never been finished. He always puts up a fight. He really challenging Diego Lopes in that third round. He's boxing heavy, has really nice power for this division, nice defense, but he's just not at that level of the champions, the top 5 guys. I think he's always going to get beat by these top 5 guys. He's well-rounded, but he can get taken down. And when he fights the right opponent, he's going to get outskilled. Is Sean Woodson as good as the guys that I'm talking about? I've been going back and forth with this. I feel like whenever we're talking about a veteran versus a newcomer, I want to take the veteran. Like Gilbert Burns, Sean Brady last year, I wanted to take Burns. Who has Sean Brady really fought? As we know, that was an atrocious pick. And then you look, let me take Umar versus Merab, the up-and-coming guy. He's a big favorite out of the Khabib camp. He gets beat. So I'm done looking at the resumes of who is this guy fought, because it really doesn't matter at this point. Dan Ige is going head-to-head with Diego Lopes, really testing his cardio in the later rounds, hurting him to the body, stuff like that. He's a nice boxer. Even, who did he drop? He dropped Lerone Murphy in his last fight, fought to a close decision there. I'm going to be going with Dan Ige here. As you can see, he has nice win versus Edson Barboza. Not too many great wins on the resume, but like I said, he's a veteran. He's been doing this a while. He knows how to make it to the distance. He knows how to land on the opponent's chin, and he'll do basically anything in his power to not get finished, anything in his power to keep the fight going, and he makes smart decisions. He's not going to take down guys that shouldn't be taken down. I wouldn't be surprised if he shot on Sean Woodson, but it would be very hard to take Sean Woodson down given his length and his stature. But he's got a great coach in Eric Nixick, trains at Extreme Couture. I think his experience and the guys he's fought is going to give him the edge in this fight. Sean Woodson, he's minus 160. He's got the reach advantage, as I keep saying, and that's kind of the only reason to pick him. It seems like he's got, a winning formula with the reach and being able to keep it on the feet versus all these guys. But when you really look at his resume, Caceres hasn't fought in forever. Yes, it's a great name, but, Caceres doesn't fight. He's getting up there in age at 36. I think Dan Ige is so much better than all of these guys that Sean Woodson has fought. And to be honest, they're not most impressive fights. A draw to Luis Saldana, Fernando Padilla, not a great fighter. Charles Jourdain split. I mean, he was a very small fighter. He moved down to bantamweight. He's not got a high finish rate, which I really like picking guys that are able to finish their opponents. Like I always say, I really look at, can one guy get a finish over the other guy and the other guy can't get a finish. I'm really start to lean towards the guy that can get the finish because it's a whole nother route that they can take in the fight. And honestly, I don't think Sean Woodson can get a finish. I really don't. I do think Dan Ige can get a finish. I do think Woodson can get knocked out. It's just whether Dan Ige can connect on the chin and get past the reach. And pop a nice hook overhand through the guard of Sean Woodson, which I do think is possible. But either way, I think he can go the distance as well and win at least 2 out of 3 rounds. So I'm going to be picking Dan Ige, the vet, in this fight. Next up, we got the opener on the main card. This is a sick main card and a sick fight night overall. One of the better cards, one of the better pay-per-views of this year, maybe even the best so far. So yeah, really exciting. Opening up the main card, we got a top 15 light heavyweight matchup in Nikita Krylov versus Dominic Reyes. Krylov coming off a long layoff, about 2 years out of the cage, dealing with some injuries, probably the war in his home country of Ukraine as well. Taking a look at Krylov. He is a finisher, 28 finishes in 30 wins. He's got a great record of 30-9-2, a ton of experience, a ton of UFC fights. He's coming in on a 3-fight win streak. In his last win, like I said, 2023, over 2 years now. 2 years and a month over Ryan Spann. I mean, not a great win. He just lost another one too, not too long ago. Beats Volkan Ozdemir, which I do rate. I think that's a very nice win. Beats him in the 3-round distance and then KOs an older Gustafsson with pretty much no chin whatsoever. So take that how you want it. Before that, he had a little 2-4 streak, but he has very, very good competition in his resume. Magomed Ankalaev, the current champion. Glover Teixeira, a split decision loss to a former champion. Jan Blachowicz loss, former champion. Alexander Gustafsson, title contender. He gets the win there. Some very, very, very good opponents on his resume. Even Johnny Walker, current top 15 guy. So I know he's had a layoff and he hasn't fought the best competition of late. Since 2022, he has one fight, and it's a Ryan Spann win. So there's a lot of things to be happy about with this guy. He's a great finisher. He's got a ton of experience. He has great competition on his resume. It's just the layoff and the inactivity that is really would point me towards the Dominic Reyes direction. Now, going over Dominic Reyes, we all know this guy beat John Jones. He didn't get the decision, but everybody scored it 3-2 to Dom Reyes, 48-47. We all gave him the first 3 rounds. John Jones pretty much won the last 2. Either way, he goes and he loses 4 in a row after that, getting KO'd in brutal fashion in pretty much all of them. Jan Blachowicz KOs him. He's taking nasty body kicks. Yair Prohaska, we all know that crazy spin elbow. Just one of the most brutal KOs I've ever seen. And then Ryan Spann knockout from a jab, I think it was. I mean, that's a really bad look. I can take the Blachowicz and the Yuri KOs, I really can. But the Ryan Spann one just stands out in a bad way. But since then, he took 2 years off, and now he's on a 2-fight win streak. Got 2 knockout wins last year, both against top 20 opponents in Dustin Jacoby and Anthony Smith. Yes, they're not the greatest opponents, especially Anthony Smith. But he did what he had to do. He did what he was supposed to do in those fights. I think he was an underdog versus Dustin Jacoby too. So he did what he had to do, and he's kind of making a little bit of resurgence in his career. 35 years old is not that old at all for a light heavyweight contender. So both these guys are on win streaks. Krylov is very underrated. Like I said, he's got great guys on his resume, although he hasn't beaten a ton of them. He's got a few former champions, a current champion on there. So just because he hasn't beaten them, he's got a ton more experience and better opponents on his resume than somebody like Dom Reyes. The thing I'm going to tell you, I'm siding with Nikita Krylov. It's a very close pick to fight to pick. It's a very close fight to pick. And the thing is with Dom Reyes, he's got great wrestling defense, but I think Nikita Krylov is going to be able to wrestle him, mix in the wrestling. His striking isn't too bad for Nikita Krylov. We know Dom Reyes, obviously, his strong suit is the striking. He has good wrestling defense. But I don't think he's going to get the knockout over Krylov. And I certainly don't think he's going to get the submission. He only has 2 career submissions. Krylov is far, far better on the ground, especially in the submission game. I don't see him getting a submission in any world. And I don't see him getting a knockout. Krylov's only been knocked out once in his career. And I think it was before the UFC, so that's 39 career fights. Only been knocked out once. And yes, this was his UFC debut, so take that for what you want. That's a good thing in my eyes, of course. So I don't think he's going to get knocked out. Dom Reyes does have nice power, but at the same time, I'm going to pick Krylov to avoid the huge power shots. His chin should be very well rested up. Not that he has a bad chin by any means, But taking 2 years off, that'll definitely do good for your chin. I mean, just having 39 MMA fights in general, your chin is going to be definitely worse than it was in your 20th MMA fight. But either way, yes, the time off is the only thing that's concerning me. If Krylov didn't take 2 years off and he took maybe a year off and got another win versus a top 15 guy last year, I would be slamming the bet button on Nikita Krylov. But honestly, it's a little bit unpredictable when some of these guys come off 2, even 3 years layoff. I mean, John Jones and Henry Cejudo are, I guess, the outliers. Those guys are some of the greatest of all time, and they had success when coming back after that type of layoff. But when you're talking about, I guess, the guys that aren't the actual GOATs of MMA, they don't do as well, of course. So I'm going to be picking Nikita Krylov to get the unanimous decision win here. Like I said, I don't like betting on guys that I don't think can get a finish while their opponent can. That's really something that throws me off picking them, and I don't think Dominic Reyes can get a finish here. So, on the other hand, Dominic Reyes does have good wrestling defense, but I think if Nikita Krylov does get it to the ground, which I think he will, he definitely could latch up a submission. Because like I said, this guy is a finisher, 28 finishes in 30 fights, and submission game is his best area, I would say. So I'm going to be picking Nikita Krylov to get the win. And I literally forgot to show you guys this. I spent all my time making this for the past few days. Keys to or notable fights and path to victory for both fighters. I do have my odds up here too. Has Krylov minus 165. I think he's around minus 190 right now, so pretty close, a little bit closer than the books have it. These are the notable fights. Like I mentioned all of these. You have a few really nice losses to current former champs for Nikita Krylov, and some good wins as well. So the path to victory, go for the finish. He's a finisher. Be Nikita. Go for the submission, go for the quick takedown, blitz Dominic Reyes. And for Dominic Reyes, he's going to have to slow the pace. You don't want a finisher like Nikita Krylov to get comfortable and really push the pace on you. You're going to have to pick your shots, defend well, and don't get taken down. So I'm going to be picking Nikita Krylov in this fight to get the unanimous decision. Next fight, Bryce Mitchell versus Gene Silva. This I'm hyped for, guys. Trust me when I say. I think everybody's hyped for this one, especially from the background story, the bad blood between these guys. If you watch the seasonal press conference, it was pretty interesting. Gene Silva, if you take a look at the odds here, he is a wide favorite. He's minus 240. I remember about a month ago he opened up at minus 450 or something wild like that. In fact, we can see right here, minus 475, got to all the way to minus 500, has dropped to 330, and then all the way to 240. So getting closer. And I think people are kind of getting on the Bryce train, and you can tell by my odds, yes, I do have Gene Silva at minus 175. I'm picking Bryce Mitchell to win this fight. Some notable fights for him. Yes, that Josh Emmett KO is not a good look, especially when you're fighting Gene Silva. But he's got a bounce back win since then. He got a Dan Ige unanimous decision 3-rounder. Took him down, held him down. Dominant win. Edson Barboza drops him, outstrikes him, gets the unanimous decision. I bring these up because Ige and Barboza are strikers. Gene Silva is, of course, a striker. But the main fight I want to bring up is the Ilia Topuria loss. Yes, he lost, and he got subbed. But here's the thing, guys. Gene Silva does not have the greatest wrestling. And even all these fighting nerds, besides Baraujo, like Prates and Rufi, they've never even shot a takedown in the UFC. They have no business shooting takedowns. They're going to want to stand up and knock you out, and they're very good at that. So why would you want them to take you down? Either way, Ilia Topuria is similar to Gene Silva in terms of his boxing and his power. Gene Silva is still worse than Ilia Topuria, of course, but Ilia Topuria is literally a grappler, okay? And he subbed Bryce Mitchell, got the arm triangle. I bring this up to say that Ilia Topuria is a grappler. Bryce Mitchell has an absurd grappling advantage in this fight. All right. If you watch the Bryce Mitchell-Ilia Topuria fight, Bryce Mitchell wasn't doing bad on the feet. I think he did get he did get cracked, I think, once before it went to the ground, but he was slipping punches very nicely, moving out of the way, moving around the cage, not getting into the red zone of Ilia Topuria's hooks, you could say. Like I said, eluding the punches and then coming back with some counters, some 1-2s. And he was there was a point in that fight where I'm thinking, this guy's actually landing on Topuria. You know, he's kind of touching him up a little bit. Like, this is a pretty even fight. So I don't think in any world that Gene Silva would want to test the ground game of Bryce Mitchell. Obviously, this is a classic striker-grappler matchup. Gene Silva has the outrageous striking advantage. Bryce Mitchell has an outrageous grappling advantage. We haven't really seen Gene Silva's grappling that much aside from his Charles Jourdain fight, where he did get taken down multiple times, and that's a convincing factor for me to be picking Bryce Mitchell. Charles Jourdain isn't even a big featherweight. He went down a bantamweight recently, I'm pretty sure. So a smaller featherweight's taken down Gene Silva multiple times. Bryce Mitchell is certainly going to get him down to the ground. It's whether or not he can hold him down for 15 minutes or he can get the submission, and I really think he can. Of course, the path to victory is takedowns, control, submission. It's the bread and butter. Grappler versus striker. Gene Silva, path to victory. Obviously, keep it on the feet. He can have a one-punch KO. Bryce Mitchell can get KO'd stiff, like he did versus Josh Emmett. But the Topuria fight for me was a telling factor, and although he lost, I think that is a bonus. It's a good look for him going into this Gene Silva fight, who is by no means Ilia Topuria. And like I said, Ilia subbed him. Gene Silva, in no world, in no reality, is subbing Bryce Mitchell. So I think Bryce Mitchell can get him to the ground. I see a lot of people picking Gene Silva. I see Gene Silva being a huge favorite. And I'm wondering, like, this is an MMA fight. This isn't a Muay Thai fight. This isn't a boxing fight. This is MMA. Bryce Mitchell's head and shoulders above Gene Silva in the grappling department. That is his strong suit by far, is Bryce Mitchell's grappling. That's what he's been doing his whole career. I don't even know if he has, or he just knocked out Kron Gracie, I'm pretty sure. I don't even know if he had a knockout before that. And he's able, like the Barboza fight, to use his grappling threat to outstrike his opponents. And then, like in the Dan Ige fight, he can take you down, he can control you. This guy's a very good grappler, very good. And I wouldn't be surprised, even if he got the first round submission. I'm very surprised that people are doubting Bryce Mitchell this much. And maybe getting on the hype train a little too easily for Gene Silva. Yes, this guy has been on an insane run, KOing Charles Jourdain, getting the doctor stoppage over Drew Dober, knocking out Melsik Bagdasaryan. He's on a knockout win streak. Maybe people are being a little bit too hyped up by that. The huge odds. I'm going to go with Bryce Mitchell. Plus, I'm rooting for him. I really, really am. It's good versus evil in this fight. I don't like Gene Silva, but that shouldn't play a factor into my pick. I'm going with Bryce Mitchell. I think he definitely can get the sub. We've seen Gene Silva take it down multiple times, but don't act like Bryce Mitchell can't get caught, can't get knocked out. That can certainly happen. So yeah, moving on to the next fight. Yair Rodriguez versus Pitbull. Yair coming in at 20-5. He's lost 2 in a row, I think. Pitbull, one of the best fighters outside of the UFC, probably all time. Probably the Bellator GOAT. He's got an absurd record at 36-7. Some notable fights for this guy. He got knocked out by Suzuki in Ryzen, I'm pretty sure, and that was 3 fights ago, maybe 2 fights ago even. He loses to, why don't we just look? He loses to Sergio Pettis as well in a 3-round decision, but that was when he was moving down in weight and he was on a huge weight cut. He still went the 5-round distance, so take what you want about that loss. And then another notable fight, KO's Michael Chandler. We all know Michael Chandler. He's fighting on this card. Michael Chandler, very, very nice win. And it honestly wasn't that long ago for Chandler, being in the UFC for feels like a good amount of time. This was in 2019. He gets the first round knockout over Michael Chandler. So it's nice to see some UFC competition, some good UFC competition on his resume. Like I said, this guy is probably the Bellator GOAT. He knows how to win rounds. He really does. As for Yair Rodriguez, notable fights for him. He did get submitted by Brian Ortega in his last fight. He dropped Ortega very early on in the fight. I thought that was going to be finished, but it wasn't. Ortega survives, takes him down in round 2, holds him down, does Ortega, and then does the same exact thing, holds him down in round 3, gets a takedown and submits him. So impressive comeback by Ortega, and Yair's mentality might be questioned a little bit in that fight. Before that, he did get the submission win over Josh Emmett for the interim belt at UFC 284. So the path to victory for Yair is volume strikes. This guy is a top 5 striker in the UFC, in my opinion. He has the best kicks in the UFC. I don't even know if people are going to argue with me on that one. He's got the best kicks, question mark kicks, whatever you want to call them. All types of stuff, very, very unpredictable. His boxing is okay, nothing crazy, but the kicks is what really does it for me and what really makes him impressive. So he does have the same game plan in pretty much every fight. Why wouldn't he? You got to kick your opponents, box him up, teeps, knees, elbows. He's good at Muay Thai. And I think he has an underrated submission game on the ground. In the wrestling department, he's not great, but I think he has an underrated submission game to where if Pitbull takes him down, he could just latch up a triangle just like he did versus Josh Emmett. So you look at his 2 notable fights, they're both by submission. I promise you guys that he is a striker, and he's one of the best strikers in the UFC. I'm going to be picking Yair in this fight. I have him at minus 155. That's my line. If you take a look at the odds, Yair's minus 200, so a little bit wider than I thought, but I do see a lot of people picking Pitbull in this fight. He's a decent wrestler, but he's an even better striker. He's very compact, dense. He's got some power, kind of like a Michael Chandler, to be honest. He knows how to win rounds. He's got great cardio, good fight IQ. He's just one of those guys that knows how to win. Like I said, I'm going to be picking Yair here. I think I would be picking Pitbull if it was anybody maybe outside of the top 10, or even somebody, 5 to 10, like someone like, I don't even know, is Calvin Kattar, Giga Chikadze? I would pick him versus those 2 guys. Those guys are around number 10 in the division. I think Yair is just too far up the competition step ladder for Patricio Pitbull in his debut. Yes, we saw Michael Venom Page come over from Bellator and win in his debut. But again, Kevin Holland, who Michael Venom Page fought, is definitely not Yair. Yair is one of the best strikers in the UFC. I'm going to be taking him by split decision. Like I said, just too much competition bump up for Pitbull. Anybody really worse than Yair, I wouldn't mind picking Pitbull in this fight, and I'm going to take the split decision win. It should be a very close fight. I'm going to take it to go the distance as well. Yair, with how good at striking he is, and Pitbull with how much power he has, there definitely could be a finish, but I'm just not sensing that type of fight. Like I said, Pitbull knows how to win rounds. He knows how to be safe at times. But although this KO versus Suzuki is, looming large, he's 37, Pitbull is, and getting KO'd there in your second to last fight is not a good look. And so that's another reason why I'm picking Yair Rodriguez here. And he's got to get back in the win column, does Yair. He's on a 2-fight win streak. And he's getting a little bit up there in age. He's probably at around 35 years old. So a third loss in a row for Yair would not do well for his career. So this could be his last chance to go on a title run for Yair as well. So I'm going to be picking him. The co-main event, Michael Chandler versus Paddy Pimblett. This is a banger. If you watch my video that I talked about the fights I was most hyped for so far that was booked in 2025, this fight was, I think, top 3. Probably the highest one up there that wasn't a title fight. And of course, it's a lightweight banger, like they always are. Michael Chandler, just a huge ball of muscle, can knock you out at any second versus Paddy Pimblett, the up-and-coming guy. Even though he's 30 years old now, he's pretty much just a contender at this point. Don't have many notable fights to talk about. We saw Paddy Pimblett submit Bobby Green in his last fight, UFC 304, and it looked like Bobby Green shot in a takedown, but I think he went for a kick or something like that, and he kind of just fell forward and had to commit, and Paddy Pimblett made him pay. And as for Chandler's notable fight, coming off a long laugh, fights Charles Oliveira at UFC 308 or 309, loses the unanimous decision, gets bullied in the first 4 rounds, and like typical Michael Chandler fashion, hurts Charles, brings some entertainment to the fight, almost gets the finish, to be honest, hits Charles with back of the head shots. Keith Peterson sees it, doesn't bat an eye, just lets it go. Charles survives and takes it to the distance. So that fight was pretty telling. I mean, Paddy Pimblett, is he a better wrestler than Michael Chandler? Who knows? Michael Chandler is I guess, a wrestler base, even though he just strikes and wings overhands at you and hopes that it catches you on the chin. Because we saw him pretty much get held down and ragdolled by Charles, who's mainly more of a jiu-jitsu guy more than a wrestling, and you could say the exact same thing for Paddy Pimblett. Paddy's jiu-jitsu is very, very high level. I don't know if people really recognize that because he still looks like a little kid, and he's still kind of that prospect in the UFC, and he hasn't fought anybody in the top 10. Bobby Green's his best win. That's still not great. Paddy Pimblett's jiu-jitsu is top level, and I think he's going to use that to get the win versus Michael Chandler. The path to victory for Paddy Pimblett, get it to the ground. Michael Chandler's been submitted before. It happened versus Dustin Poirier. Hopefully he doesn't cheat. Hopefully he doesn't hold on to Paddy's gloves. If he doesn't, which is definitely a stretch to say, I think Paddy will get the submission. He's got such a good arsenal of submissions as well. Anything he wants, really. And I think Michael Chandler, being how crazy he is and how violent he is, there's going to be openings on the feet to get taken down and even to get countered by Paddy Pimblett. His striking ain't bad either. He's got a nice chin. The striking will open up the takedowns for Paddy Pimblett. So I think he can stay in the feet for the first few minutes versus Michael Chandler, maybe land a few, gain the respect of Chandler, and then counter or take him down. I can see this fight going, I think it's a 5-rounder. I can see this going the distance, even though it's kind of hard to believe with these two names, especially Michael Chandler. But we just saw him Chandler go 5 rounds in his last fight. I think Paddy can do what he did versus Tony and hold him down, ground and pound. He's got great control and good awareness on the ground as well. But Michael Chandler does have the ability to explode up. Although I will say Paddy Pimblett is very big and he's got a great physique. Another thing I just don't think people see because of his face. He looks so young, even though he's 30 years old. It's pretty crazy. He's very strong. He's got a great physique. Does Michael Chandler as well, though. He's the younger guy. He's the stronger guy. He probably has the better chin. He's certainly going to be fighting with a good fight IQ. Michael Chandler, or at least a better fight IQ than Michael Chandler. Michael Chandler turns into a retard after he hurts somebody. It happens after the first round. It happens every fight. But this is Paddy's toughest fight. That has to be said. His best win, like I said, is Bobby Green, King Green. Michael Chandler is a far bump up past that Bobby Green victory in the top 10. He's fought the best of the best. I just think Michael Chandler is kind of, I think Paddy's a little underrated and Michael Chandler is a little overrated at this point. Yes, he's fought the best of the best, but he's losing. And the Charles fight was his worst performance yet, and that was his most recent one. Conor McGregor kind of took his prime away from him, or at least that region coming out of his prime, in that 36, 37 range, being a lightweight, which isn't that heavy. That's like the end of your career right there, and he's been sitting out through a lot of it, and then we just saw what Charles did, basically beat him up for 4 rounds. This could go very similar to the Charles fight. I'm going to be picking Paddy Pimblett here to use his grappling, get the decision, just like Bryce Mitchell does. Hopefully I'm right on both of these, man, because I'm really rooting for both these guys. The main event, Volk versus Diego Lopes. Volk, old man Volk, coming in, back-to-back knockouts, as we all know. The Topuria knockout, the Makhachev knockout. Not far removed from that dominant performance over Yair Rodriguez, where he got the finish there. This is so tough. My line is at 135. I think the odds have been getting closer and closer. It's a damn near pick'em right now. He started at minus 150, stayed around there, and has been getting very close. Almost at a pick'em right now. I'm scared for Volk. I really am. As for Diego Lopes, he's young. He's the up-and-coming guy. He's got power. He's got some nice cardio. It's going to be whether Diego Lopes can land the knockout shot. That's essentially what it is. Volkanovski, if you're going skill for skill, has by far the better skills than Diego Lopes. He's got the better, do I even have to explain? He's got the better cardio. He's got the better wrestling. He's got the better submission defense. He's probably faster. He's got the better fight IQ. He's certainly got the better resume. To be honest, I've been looking too much into the resume, and I think I've been living in the past too much. I see these guys. I keep thinking of the Gilbert Burns-Sean Brady fight. Sean Brady hadn't really fought anybody at the time. This was last year. Gilbert Burns, he fought Usman. I think dropped Usman. Fought Bilal Muhammad. Fought Dan Hooker. Fought the top of the top for a long time now. Went toe-to-toe with Hamzat Chimaev. And Sean Brady hadn't really fought anybody. Jake Matthews, Michael Chiesa, and Brady just battered him, man. And I think I'm living in the past. I think I've learned from my mistakes here. I really know better. I know better. The pick should be Volk. If we were in a perfect world, Volkanovski would win this fight. It would go the 5-round distance. He would be the quicker guy with the better cardio, touch up Diego Lopes, use the leg kick, the jab, very quick, go the distance, take him down as well. Volkanovski can certainly take down Diego Lopes. But that's in a perfect world, and this isn't a perfect world. I've learned my lesson. I have to take Diego by knockout. I really do. Looking at the relevant fights, we see he got a very impressive win in his last time out versus Brian Ortega. I think it was a unanimous 30-26 or 30-27. Not far into the fight, he didn't drop Ortega, but he very much hurt Ortega. He hits him with a punch. Ortega's going down. You could almost count it as a knockout for Diego Lopes. Ortega's going down. Diego hits him with a left hook, hits him so hard it wakes Ortega back up in midair, and he stands back up, and then he survives the next 2 rounds. Diego wins all 3 rounds. Yeah, very impressive, because Ortega is no slouch, and I know what Volk did to him, but you just can't think like that nowadays. You can't live in the past like I've been living in the past. That Dan Ige win on short notice, the only thing I will say is he was really slowed down in the 3rd round. But who knows if that's a true test of his cardio with the weight that these guys weighed in at, Dan Ige coming in on a day's notice, not even a day. I don't even know what weight that fight was at, but it was probably at like freaking 160 or something. So I don't want to bag on Diego's cardio too much in that fight, because that's very, very rare circumstances. And even this may be the most relevant fight, his debut versus Movsar Evloev. This guy came in, Evloev minus 900. We didn't really know who Diego Lopes was. Brazilian kid comes in, bunch of fights, bunch of finishes against a top guy in Movsar, undefeated. Comes in first round and is throwing up submission attempts, heel hooks, the whole 9 yards. I think he wins the first round even. Movsar does pretty much just hold him down for the next 2 rounds, but a close fight with Evloev in your debut is a very, very impressive win, up there with Arman's decision loss to Islam Makhachev in his debut. So some really nice fights, even losses that Diego has. As for Volkanovski, we all know the Ilia Topuria knockout, the Islam head kick KO on short notice. Even the Topuria was kind of on short notice, as in he took it a lot sooner than he really should have. And the Yair Rodriguez KO, this was, I picked Volk in that Ilia Topuria fight. I'm thinking that Yair Rodriguez fight was prime Volk, and that was not long ago. That was 2023. Like, that's got to be still how Volk is. And then he gets KO'd by Ilia Topuria. In my opinion, he won the first round. He was touching Ilia up. Ilia's nose was already showing damage on it, and he just got caught. And in hindsight, I mean, that was always going to happen. Ilia is nasty. His power is insane. Now we see what he did versus Max. If they rematched Volk and Ilia, the same exact thing would have happened. So it's just not that bad of a loss. And obviously Islam Makhachev on short notice, head kick KO in Russia. These aren't bad. And yes, he's getting old. Yes, he's been knocked out twice. We see it all the time, though. We saw it with Justin Gaethje in his last fight versus Fiziev. We thought this guy might not have a chin anymore. I mean, that was a devastating KO versus Max Holloway. And that played a part in my pick in picking Fiziev. And what happens? Gaethje's eating uppercuts. He's eating hooks from Rafael Fiziev like it's freaking nothing. Okay? I don't think, and that's a big part of that is because Gaethje took a long time off. So I really think that taking time off does great things for your chin. And I just don't think that it will, these last 2 knockout losses for Volk will play as much of a part as we think it will be. Yes, Diego has a ton of power for the division at least. And taking a look at Volkanovski's resume, I did notice something, is that this guy, he's got such an absurd resume. But I am looking, he's been knocked out by Ilia Topuria. The Makhachev KO was a head kick. He hasn't really fought in anybody with like one punch knockout power. I'm not recognizing any names in the UFC. Maybe Chad Mendes. But this is, Volk coming into his prime. Jose Aldo, let's face it, does not have knockout power. Max Holloway certainly doesn't. Brian Ortega doesn't. Korean Zombie's a nice striker. But he has nowhere near the power of somebody like Ilia Topuria or Diego Lopes. Yes, Diego Lopes has some nasty power. We saw with the Sadiq Youssef fight, drops him with the uppercut a minute into the fight. Knocks out Pat Sabatini a minute into the fight. Drops Ortega, hurts him badly. If he didn't connect on that second hook, I think that would have been a first round knockout of Brian Ortega for Diego Lopes in his last fight. And with Volk's old age, like I said, I've learned my lesson. I really don't want to pick him. I want to think that Volk is still the same Volk, the guy who has the best skill in the division, and he still might, but nowadays being more skilled than someone I just don't know if that'll do it. I gotta pick Diego Lopes here, the young up and coming guy, getting his title shot in very, very short amount of time. Like I was just talking about with the Movsar Evloev debut, he's literally surpassed Movsar, and Movsar has not lost in that time between, and he surpassed him getting a title shot. This guy's fighting very quick turnarounds. Diego Lopes, he's very hungry. Who knows where Volk's hunger is at this point in his career. He's 36 years old. No guy below lightweight has ever won the belt past 35. I'm pretty sure that's the stat. I really hate to pick against Volk. I don't want to pick against Volk, but I've learned my lesson. I'm going to be picking Diego Lopes in this fight. And one thing I want to say, if you are picking Diego Lopes in this fight, you're saying Volkanovski is getting old. He's been knocked out in recent fights. Well, you can't be picking Patricio Pitbull. This is the same. I mean, these guys have very similar careers. Volkanovski's the featherweight goat in the UFC. Pitbull's the featherweight goat in Bellator, and even just the Bellator goat in general. Pitbull is 1 year older than Volk. Okay, he's been knocked out recently, just like Volk against Suzuki, and that was in 2023. So he's been knocked out recently. He's 1 year older than Volk. He's at the same weight class. Why do I see so many people picking Pitbull? I just don't understand it. But also picking against Volkanovski. Like, it's too similar of a situation to say this guy's getting old and his chin's gone after getting knocked out, when this very similar situation compared to Pitbull, who's even older than Volkanovski. So I don't understand it, but that's besides the point. I'm going to be going with Diego Lopes here. I don't want to, but I am. So those are my picks for UFC 314 full card predictions. Let me know who you guys like in the comments down below. Please leave a like on the video. Leave a comment on your reactions to the fights, and that'll be it for me.